I want to begin today's video with a story. Back in 2008, Jagex added the ability to lend your gear. What that meant is you could go up to somebody and offer them money to borrow their equipment. And this was perfect for someone like me. I was poor. Back then, my favorite thing to go do was head to the Taverly dungeon and kill some dragons. However, I had only ever killed them with the rune crossbow. See, that was something I could afford. I remember there was this long weekend and I was so excited because I knew I was about to sink my teeth into some blue dragons. You see, I killed the blue dragons because I knew that they dropped hard clues. Now, I don't exactly remember what was on the drop table back then for the hard clues, but it didn't really matter because any unique you got from a hard clue was just worth so much money. So I went to the Grand Exchange and I found someone that was trying to rent out their whip for the weekend. At the time, owning a whip seemed like something I was never going to achieve. So being able to rent one, oh, that was so cool. Anyway, so I got the whip, I teleported to Falador, and that was when I had the most important misclick of my life. As I was running to the crumbled wall, I had accidentally clicked on a Falador guard. I ran right over to him and then boom, one tapped. The guard died and he dropped me a medium clue. I was so stoked. The only reason I was killing the dragons is because I wanted the clue scroll from them. I didn't really do medium clue scrolls that much. I remember being a little worried that I wasn't going to be able to complete it, but I swear I completed it in the minimum amount of steps possible. And I remember the last step was in Canifis. It was like right outside. I don't remember the exact step it was, but within like 10 minutes, I had that medium casket. I opened it up and it had ranger boots. It took me a second to realize what they were and how much they were worth. But at the time, I think I sold them on the GE for close to 270 mil. I remember right when I got them, I immediately went to eBay to see how much they were worth if I wanted to sell them on there. And believe it or not, there was listings to buy items. I remember seeing them for sale for like $300. I sprinted downstairs to tell my dad, and my dad was like, "What are you doing? You need to sell those. You're crazy. You just made $300 in your video game." Of course I didn't sell them. Not because it was against the rules, but because I wanted the RuneScape money. Because like I said, I was poor. But not only now was I not poor, but I was wealthy. I was just trying to gather enough money to go rent a whip. Now I had enough to go and buy 100 of them. And that leads us into what we need to talk about today. Clue scrolls. Clue scrolls are such a staple in today's RuneScape landscape. And oh boy, are they a hot topic right now. If for some reason you're watching this video and you don't know what a clue scroll is, here's a quick rundown. Clue scrolls are a drop that you can get from certain NPCs or even some raids. It's really just a piece of paper. They're kind of like treasure maps. You get a scroll, it'll tell you to go to a certain location or solve a riddle. And once you do that a couple of times, you're rewarded with a casket. Whenever you open one of these caskets, you have a chance at getting some of the most rare loot in the game. And since it's some of the rarest loot in the game, it's also some of the most expensive. Like I'm talking really, really expensive. For example, if you get a master clue casket and you open it, you have a chance at getting a third age pickaxe, which is the most expensive item in this game. You can't even buy one on the Grand Exchange. The current street price for one is 13 billion gold. So as you can imagine, clue scrolls are kind of a big deal. And Jagex is looking to change them entirely. Right now, there are 6 different tiers of clues. And up until about a year ago, you were only ever allowed to have 1 clue of each tier at a time. So, for example, if you had a medium clue in your inventory or in your bank, and you were killing something that could drop a medium clue, the game would prevent that NPC from dropping you another clue because you can only have 1 of each tier at a time. But back in March of 2024, Jagex opened up a big can of worms. They changed the time that it takes for clues to despawn when they're on the ground from 3 minutes, like every other item in the game, to 1 hour. They did this because players started to complain about how clue scrolls were starting to interrupt whatever they were doing in game. Whether it was raid, doing a slayer task, or skilling, they would get a clue scroll and they felt like they had to stop what they were doing and go and complete that clue scroll, because if they didn't, then they wouldn't be eligible to receive a new one. And people didn't like the fact that they were gearing up to go fight a boss, getting a clue scroll, having to go back to the bank, grab all the items that they need to go complete the clue scroll, then head back to the boss or whatever they were doing until they got another clue scroll and just repeated that cycle again. I feel like I need to share my bias right now. I personally liked when I would get a clue scroll. I liked the interruption in whatever monotonous grind I was on. A clue scroll was like a little treat, but I guess a lot of players felt otherwise, so they changed them. What changing the despawn timer from 3 minutes to 1 hour allowed was now if you got the clue, you would go and pick it up and set it back down, and it wouldn't despawn for an hour. And since the clue was on the ground and not in your inventory or your bank, you were eligible to receive another one. In theory, you could juggle an infinite amount of clues. And I hated that. I didn't like it because it didn't feel like old school RuneScape. I don't know, maybe I'm a boomer, but this felt like Leagues or RS3 making its way into old school RuneScape. And the other thing I hated about it is it felt like Jagex was forcing my hand. Before this update, if you got a clue scroll, you could either ignore it and let it despawn, or you could stop what you were doing and go and do the clue. But now, stopping what you were doing, taking a little break, and doing the clue scroll was now inefficient. You were wasting your time. It was much more efficient to juggle the clues and just do them all at the end. And just like that, Jagex ruined clue scrolls. My favorite thing to do as a kid was just change forever. And it felt like it was changed because of a loud minority. I like clue scrolls. I like doing them. I'm not obsessed, I'm not addicted, but this update really catered to those that were clue addicts. And Jagex knew what they did was wrong. They clearly understand that it's a mistake, and that's why they gave us poll 84. We're gonna break down this blog post into 2 parts. What they said initially, and then we'll visit what they said after they faced all the backlash. Jagex wants to give us actual stackable clues. No more clue juggling. When they added clue juggling, they thought it was going to be a small quality of life update. They did not foresee people turning clue juggling into their full-time job. And 1 year later, Jagex decided to finally right their wrong. Instead of clue juggling, they were going to give us the scroll box. The scroll box is a way for us to stack clues, but in a limited and controlled way. No more infinite amount of clues on the ground. Now, if you complete all of their clue-related challenges, you can store up to 5 of each type of clue. In my opinion, this made complete sense. We were no longer forced to juggle, and clues were not going to always interrupt whatever you were doing. This felt like the perfect middle ground, and it was a huge quality of life increase from what it was just a couple years ago. But Jagex messed up. They accidentally gave us a taste of what it would be like if we could have as many clues as we wanted. But unlimited clues was not okay. Anyone that plays RuneScape knows this game is about the grind. Infinite clues are never going to fit in this game. And Jagex agrees with me. This blog post was for poll 84. They were going to let us vote on whether or not the scroll box came into the game. However, Jagex decided that regardless of whether or not the player base voted in the scroll box, they were going to completely remove the 1 hour clue despawn timer and revert it back to 3 minutes, effectively killing clue juggling. That's when all hell broke loose. Their social media was dogpiled with negativity. I had never seen this many negative responses. I was also shocked because I agreed with Jagex. They were right in this situation. Clue juggling was never supposed to be what it became. I did feel a little bit bad for the people that were really upset with Jagex because they too felt like Jagex was forcing their hand. They either had to vote yes to the scroll box or they would have no stackable clues at all. The clue addicts felt like they got screwed. In my opinion, they're not getting screwed. They're just getting brought back to reality. I keep talking in the past tense because a lot has changed since Jagex made their initial post. But I want to go over one thing before we move on. The scroll box was not Jagex's only proposal. They also proposed one of the single worst ideas I have ever heard in my life. One niche benefit to clue juggling was that you could use certain clues that you had on the ground to skip steps of other clues that you found annoying or you didn't want to do, so that you were only doing the clue steps that you wanted to do. This was always a thing, but it was made a lot easier because you had the 1 hour timer. And I guess Jagex liked this feature because after the scroll box, they proposed a new item in the game, the skip token. The skip token was a tradable reward that would exclusively come from clues caskets that would allow you to skip any single step while doing a clue. I don't like this idea because it feels like more of RS3 seeping into old school RuneScape. And like I said, maybe I'm just a boomer, but I don't want any item anywhere that lets me skip content. It feels cheap. If the content was good, we wouldn't want to skip it. So just make good content. And if you're gonna put something like this into the game, make it an untradable. This is wild that people are gonna be able to sell skip tokens on the Grand Exchange. It doesn't feel like old school RuneScape at all. And I really hope that Jagex gets rid of this idea. Anyways, back to the backlash. Jagex was taking a beating across their social medias, and after 26 hours of negative comments, they folded. They put out an update to the Poll 84 blog, essentially stating that they've heard the passion and the feedback that the player base has shown, and they felt like they would benefit from more time and deeper player involvement before they needed to move forward. This was the wrong move. Jagex was right about the need to remove the extended timer. The scroll box was the perfect answer. I don't know why they folded so quickly. I was really disappointed. I thought that they nailed it on the head of what they needed to change. The fact that they delayed any changes makes me worried. I'm worried that they're not going to put their foot down and clue juggling might stay in this game forever. They closed out their update by saying they have no idea when they're going to get back to us. They think it's more likely going to be a couple weeks away than a couple months, but I'm not going to hold my breath. In the end, I mean, I'm still going to be logging in and playing every day. I'm addicted. I'm not going to quit if they don't take away the timer. But they need to do something about it. And I don't want them to turn their back on the path they were headed down. It was the right path. Anyways, enough of me yapping about clue scrolls. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Is Jagex spineless? Or are the clue scroll addicts right? Let me know down below. I'll take a look at each and every single comment. If you like this video, please subscribe. If you need more T-pop in your life, check out my Twitch. I'm live whenever I'm not making a YouTube video. I'll make sure it's the first link down below. See you later.